Vasishta continued, one who engages himself in inquiry is not tempted by distractions. The eyes but see. The notions pleasant, unpleasant, etc. arise not in the eyes but elsewhere. It is even so with the other senses. So they arise in the mind, not in the eyes. Hence, the sense functions are not evil. If egoistic thought is linked to these sense functions, which arise and cease in a moment, there is mental agitation. The idea here is, or the practice here is, to realize that in the seeing there is only the seeing. But what happens is we colour everything we see, everything we experience as pleasant, unpleasant, and so on, as desirable or undesirable. This is the colouring that we infuse in what's happening. O eyes, the objects of your experience arise and fall, and they are but appearances. So we're talking here about the visual aspect of the field of experiencing, which is filled with things. There's so many things arising and falling within it. Do not let your gaze linger on them, lest the eternal indwelling consciousness suffer mortality. And this is what happens. Our sense of being gets sapped away, and we invest the objects that appear to us with qualities of desirability or undesirability. And then we have longings, we cravings, we cling to these things, we chase after these things in a most undignified manner usually. And it's limiting. It says here, consciousness suffers mortality. So we're no longer in touch with our infinite essence. We start chasing after limited, perishable things. Be an onlooker that you truly are. O mind, countless scenes are seen by the eyes in accordance with their natural function. Why do you get involved in them? Even if these scenes are reflected in the mind and recognized by it, why do you respond to these as the ego sense? In other words, in the seeing, there is only the seeing. There is, without doubt, an intimate relationship between the eyes and their objects. But why do you offer yourself as their support, and then endeavour to apprehend them? Truly, seen, sight, and mind are unrelated, like the face, mirror, and reflection. So the mirror has got no relationship to the face or to what's reflected in it. It could be anything. And in the same way, sight, which is the process of seeing, has got nothing to do with the actual object or with the mental colouring, the emotional colouring we imbue that object with. Yet, somehow the illusory notion arises that I see this. In other words, we make this connection. We make this very intimate connection between me here and that thing out there that I'm seeing. Ignorance is the wax in which these are sealed to one another, but self-knowledge is the fire in whose heat this wax melts away. In other words, we haven't considered what's going on. So by examining what's going on, we can dismember the mechanism. It's rather like the Buddhist Just Sitting practice. You sit usually with your eyes closed and you observe the contents of your thought without getting caught up in them. It's a very difficult practice. So in this way we're being asked to look without getting caught up. And perhaps it might be an interesting exercise to try this. Here's an interesting meditation practice. Watch the television. Yes, watch television and watch it without getting involved in it. is an interesting exercise. Watch it without getting hypnotised, getting taken in by the stories that are being presented. And I wonder if we can't do that with the television, can we do it with what we consider to be reality? Let's try it. Try 15 minutes, 10 minutes, let's say 10 minutes. Try 10 minutes of watching television without getting caught up in it. Just being aware that it's simply images being flashed across the screen. And being aware of our own sense of being while these images are being flashed across the screen. And not letting our sense of being get hooked into it. Indeed, it is through repeated thinking that this ignorant relationship is strengthened. But I shall now destroy it through right inquiry. It's by continually dwelling on these objects which we find desirable or undesirable, these scenes that we find desirable or undesirable, people, objects, relationships, scenarios. That's what reinforces this ignorant relationship. When ignorance is destroyed, such illusory relationship between seen, sight and mind will never again arise. The mind alone provides the senses with their intelligence, hence this mind should be destroyed. This is the yogic way of talking. We destroy the mind. I think it's probably best to see that as metaphorical. It's rather like a workman, a bad workman, blaming his tools, and therefore to avoid him from doing damage, he destroys his tools, or his tools are destroyed. But really these tools have to be used as tools and not be blamed for the mess that's being made. But certainly the mind should be destroyed in that we have absolutely no interest in getting involved with it. No interest in getting involved with this emotional colouring which we imbue the contents of the mind with. There should be no truck with that whatsoever. So in that sense, the mind should be destroyed.